Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, Maverick family. Great to have everybody here. First up, headlines. Microsoft, giant worldwide computer disruptions. What the heck is going on? Cyber attack? They say no. They say it's the result of a faulty software update. And yet it's having an impact through all of the Western world. Seems a little bit fishy to me, but who am I to dig into conspiracy theories? Well, I am one to dig into conspiracy theories, and tonight I am going to share with you information that I believe will defuse some of the craziness that has accompanied the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. I'll try to give you a little bit of factual information to combat some of the clickbait that is out there. What else do we have going on? I'm also going to talk again, just to clarify my statements last night on the Lancet, the medical journal, and the casualty figures of the death toll in Gaza that the Lancet has been putting out, which is now has been making its way into a variety of other media publications. And I'll tell you why I think that that information should be heavily scrutinized and questioned. Russia, concerned about NATO posturing, and they are looking at putting some missiles off the coast of the U.S. Yeah, Trump talked about this a little bit last night in his speech at the RNC, talking about missiles inside nuclear submarines being parked in Cuba. Well, the situation is even more serious than that. And I'll explain that one too. Joe Biden, it looks like they're formulating an exit strategy for him. Told you last night, he is expected to step aside by this weekend. And while that hasn't been formalized, they are looking for a way to take him down an off-ramp. I'll share the latest with that with you as well. What else do we have? The Houthis are claiming responsibility for a drone strike in Israel tonight. And we have footage of that as well. So lots of stuff to share with you. And just a reminder as well, before we even get into tonight's program here, that after tonight's show, we'll take a little break. Then we are going to come back on at midnight for Maverick Midnight Matinee. Yes, Maverick Midnight Matinee. I'll show it to you one more time. At midnight tonight. New program. You guys asked for it. We'll give it a trial run tonight. It's going to be fun, I think, and I have a special guest who's going to join us. The theme tonight, Superman. We're going to talk about Superman, heroes, America's image around the world, what Superman stands for. We'll look at iconic Superman cartoons. We're going to watch some Superman tonight, and we're going to have a broader discussion about Superman and what he means to America and the world. Who knows where it's going to go, but it should be a lot of fun. Maverick Midnight Matinee, 12 midnight tonight, debut episode, and we have a special guest coming on to join us in the conversation about Superman. But first, we have to get through tonight's top stories here on the Maverick News Channel. So stay with me, and I will be right back, and then we'll start digging in to the daily news.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are two iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
All right, so first up tonight, let's talk about this computer situation. Microsoft, they're saying it's a routine software update that has caused cascading chaos globally. It's affecting businesses around the world, airports, banks, retail, automotive, you name it, it's affected. Healthcare, government. Now, we're being told that it is not a cyber attack, but it was caused by one of the biggest cybersecurity companies in the Western world deploying what they say is a flawed update. And they say they were doing this while they were trying to protect their customers from hackers. What's the company name? CrowdStrike. So this outage appears to be affecting every major business sector in one way or another. Flights at airports tonight disrupted around the world, severely delayed or canceled altogether in many cases. Computers, which the airline industry relies on, not functioning properly. It's resulted in lineups at airports from Berlin to Hong Kong and places elsewhere as well. Just complete chaos. Even McDonald's had to close some of its stores in Japan because they couldn't get their cash registers to function properly. Baltic Hub, a global shipping terminal in Poland, issued a statement today saying that it has been battling issues related to the outage. And the Alaska State Troopers Agency was among the law enforcement agencies reporting issues today as well. Their 911 emergency system affected, not working properly, putting people's safety at risk. Sky News, which is part of NBC Universal, the NBC Universal Comcast empire, was also knocked off the air. So what was the reason for all of this? Cybersecurity programs like CrowdStrike's go through updates on a fairly regular basis. All software is updated is on an ongoing basis. And there's always the possibility, and more often than not, these updates result in conflicts between various programs, which are sort of made to talk to each other. And if one thing updates and it isn't done properly, or it's done in a way that leaves a piece of software in the dust, makes it obsolete, it might not communicate properly anymore if it's not backwards compatible. And we're told that's what has happened here. But the scale of this is what throws a lot of this into question. And in Canada, the government has acknowledged that, yes, even the Canadian healthcare system has been severely impacted by this. So I'm just getting the latest information here for you about this CrowdStrike cybersecurity problem and the way that it's impacting hospitals. And here's Mark Holland, Canada's Minister of Health, posting on social media tonight, acknowledging that, here, let me just bring up his Twitter account so you can see him. There he is. Right there. So Holland says, we are aware of the IT outage and the challenges it is creating for healthcare professionals and hospitals. He says, we are actively monitoring the situation and working with partners across Canada to support our health infrastructure. And, there was a cybersecurity attack, a ransom attack that hit hospitals here in my area through the whole region. It caused shutdowns here. That was maybe 10 months ago, I think, something like that. So we're seeing an increase in digital disruptions through, Western industries. One has to wonder what the heck is going on, really. Out in Atlantic Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador's Health Authority reported that its main information system has been affected by the outage as well. The Nova Scotia Health Authority says it's monitoring the situation. In Quebec, hospitals in Quebec, including at the McGill University Hospital Centre, have confirmed that they have been unaffected. In Ontario, Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario in Ottawa has been affected by the outage. And they say that they are providing services as planned using workarounds where needed. And they don't think that it's going to impact services in a significant way. At Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre in Toronto, they have also acknowledged that their systems, their services have been affected, but they say clinical activity is ongoing. North York General Hospital, Toronto area again, say the outage is impacting some of its systems, but they are also, at this point, they're still able to function. They're still open. So we're seeing impacts on healthcare facilities across Canada tonight. Out in British Columbia, more than 50,000 electronic devices across the province's health ministry, including 30,000 on the BC mainland and 20,000 at Vancouver Island, have been affected by the outage. That being confirmed tonight by the health minister out in British Columbia. So all of this, being monitored and workarounds being used. Fortunately, it looks like the vast majority of healthcare services remain in place tonight. Hospitals finding ways to work around these disruptions, but it's impacting all kinds of industries tonight. So we will continue to monitor this as well, and we'll see where it takes us. Now, also, and that's interesting. Okay, somebody's sending me a message about something I'm going to speak to tonight, and I will get to that shortly. Joe Biden tonight. I mentioned yesterday that we had sources calling and telling us that Biden will step aside as early as this weekend. And that looks like it could actually be the case. Still, incredible pressure on him from within the Democrat Party to step aside. And now tonight, this headline and other similar headlines being published from mainstream media outlets that have generally been very charitable to the Biden administration. Here's NBC saying Biden's family has started to discuss his possible exit plan from the 2024 race. Now, last night, during Trump's address, we did see some officials from the Biden campaign, like people directly involved in the campaign, appearing on mainstream media. And specifically, I know that there was an effort made over at MSNBC to tamp down all this talk about Biden stepping aside. They say it's all false. That's what they were saying last night. But while that's going on, we're seeing this. It seems they're looking for an honorable way for Biden to step aside and looking for a way that he can do it on his own terms. So Andrew Bates from the White House spokesman, says that these reports of discussions, even within the Biden family, about him stepping aside are simply false. But I doubt somebody's lying. Somebody's not telling the truth. And given the mounting pressure from prominent Democrats applied directly to Joe Biden for him to step aside, I'd say that maybe the talk of it being false is false. But that's just speculation. One way or another, something's going to happen. Okay, so enough said about that because it's just so obvious what's going on. All right. Let me take a little break here. I need to read what was just emailed to me. It looked like some sort of a warning. So let me take a break. I'll run this promo again for the t-shirts. And I have to say thank you to the people who donated again today to the program. We haven't had a lot of orders for these shirts, but we're getting close to getting the minimum number now so we can get these things printed and shipped out to people. So really appreciate that. A couple of orders came in, and I am going to get caught up on email messages, thank you notes that I have to send out to people. I have not had time to respond to messages and emails. I'm still trying to get caught up on so many things. I needed to get prepared for tonight's broadcast, plus trying to get some graphics and things done for the midnight matinee, the Maverick midnight matinee tonight. So getting ready for that too. But thank you. That's all I can say. And if you would like one of these t-shirts or just even a regular Maverick News t-shirt, you can have one with a $30 donation or more. I'll run this and I'll be right back.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Okay. I might as well just dig right into it right now, right off the top. Well, a second story in. These theories about a second shooter, just off the chart. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying into it. Now, you can disagree all you want. If you want, go ahead, think whatever you want. But I am seeing... and this is a story in itself just because the scale of this is just, it's spreading like wildfire. What else can I tell you? I'm going to tell you a lot. First of all, I'm going to run some of this video, and then I'm going to tell you why it's the whole approach is flawed and not valid. Okay, and he's Jesus. All right, here we go. Hang on. Should I run this one, or I'll run it off the other source? Hang on. This is about the second shooter. Okay. People just seem to want to believe this stuff. I guess I'll have to run it from here. All right, that's okay. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's just so hard. So many things here. Okay, I've got it. We'll run some of this. Here we go. We'll run some.
Having its narratives punctured, but obviously there's a lot wrong with the Trump shooting. I'm going to show you rock solid evidence today, and I'm making this public. I've been chewing on this for a while. I don't have the complete...
He says it's rock solid evidence. Rock solid. That means unequivocal, right? Beyond the shadow of a doubt. We'll see.
Analysis yet. We're going to need more people to weigh in on this, but let me show you what I've got. So we're going to start here.
So he needs more people to weigh in on it, but it's rock solid.
This is day 3 of the cover-up, as we're calling it. And by the way, this is July 18th. I'm going to dedicate this to my brother, John Peter Martinson. He died when he was 23, just a hole ripped out of my heart. And today's his birthday. So I have to make mention of that. So it's for you, John. I know he would have admired this work, and I'm doing this for you, and that's why I'm going to be proud and loud about this. There were 2 shooters, so let's reorient
Were there? He just makes a statement, but please carry on.
Ourselves with the scene again. Let me get my drawing tool out, or my pointing tool. Okay, so First up, they tell us that the shooter was here. This is very accurately located on the roof off of the drain pipe, as we covered before. I'll show you that one more time. I just want to make sure we're all sharing the same orientation because this is important, right?
Yeah.
And we have 2 victims here. Comparator, who died, another guy who's very severely injured. He has life-altering injuries. And then another gentleman back here in the upper right part of the stand. I'm going to show you all this evidence, okay? So first up, we need to know where all the shots went, right? And I'm going to show you that the first 3 shots came from a very different weapon in a different location than the next string of shots that came out. It's either 5 or 6, depending on how you count. But you decide, listen, it couldn't be more clear how different they are. This is the picture from on the roof of, Crooks lying here dead. There's a little blood trailing down back here, but this allows us to locate him on the roof very, very accurately because of this raised seam metal roof. And now the story is that there's actually, you can't see it in this photo, but there's a 5-foot ladder here. Apparently he came up, would have come across, would have jumped down onto here, would have come up. Maybe that explains why his backpack, if that's what that is left there.
And we don't know how he got on the roof, but that's another story.
Came over to here. Apparently, some other cop would have been lifted up and looked over roofline. I don't know what that is. Now, even in CNN a while ago, this is from CNN. So I'm saying even because these guys are deep state sort of aligned. Operation Mockingbird. They don't print stuff unless it's pre-approved. So somebody allowed this information to come out. And they said here that the first 3 shots were consistent with weapon A and the next 5 consistent with alleged weapon B. And the final acoustic impulse emitted by a third possible weapon C. I believe that's true. And weapon C is the sniper taking out Crooks, I think. Best guess. I'll give you my big hypothesis at the end. So this was confirmed. This is per audio analysis by Catalin Gregores, director of the National Center for Media Forensics at the University of Colorado in Denver. So I'm sure that her and Cole Whitecotton, a senior professional research associate, they have much better access to much better analysis software and all of that. All I need to get out to you today is something that seems to be missing from the dialogue, and they're trying to run forward with this lone shooter junk, which of course is straight from their playbook. That's how they did it. That's what they did with JFK. They lied about that. That's what they did with RFK.
Blah, blah, blah.
They lied about that. So this is standard from the playbook kind of stuff. Lone nut with a mysterious motive we can't unravel. We're here to unravel all of that, okay? Rock solid, absolutely.
Rocks, please get to the rock solid.
This is the best part about being alive today. We don't have to wait for 30, 40 years for a Zapruder film and people to sort of analyze it. We're doing this in real time and figuring this out as it's unfolding. And that is the absolute benefit of living in today's world with all these cell phones and cameras. Much harder to get away with really sloppy operations. And this,
but it could be really sloppy analysis.
Was a sloppy operation because they missed.
Could be really sloppy science.
Their man, whoever was involved in this. But I can guarantee you that the information I'm presenting to you, they also have. But somehow they're hiding it. Which
are they hiding it or not sharing it in the way that you're sharing it because your methodology is flawed?
Of course, is par for the course with these particular crew of people. Okay, and they said audio analysis has confirmed the gunman was 360 to 390 feet, 3 feet away. Okay, according to another forensic expert, Robert Mayer. Yeah, we all end up in the same ballpark. I end up a little closer to 430 feet, but doesn't matter. All with
it doesn't matter
in the realm,
as long as you get your narrative out.
Realm of analytical wiggle room. Okay. So this is we're going to analyze 2 separate audio streams today. This is the first one. This is taken from a microphone right in front of the podium. So you're going to hear 2 things, of course. You're going to hear a snap. Sounds very sharp sound. That's the supersonic crack of the bullet flying within, sending its supersonic shockwave to the microphone. Microphone picks it up like that. And then there's the report of the gun, which follows a little later. Sounds like an echo. So it goes crack thump. Crack thump. The crack thump is a well-known tool that snipers would use to estimate how far away somebody is that's shooting them. If there's a very long distance between the crack and the thump, that your shooter's very far away because the bullet flies faster than the speed of sound. So the sound is the explosion of the gun. Boom! That starts traveling towards, the victim down there or whoever's downrange. But the bullet gets there first. And it gets there at supersonic velocity, which means faster than 1,100 feet per second, give or take the altitude and conditions. So if anything's traveling faster than the speed of sound, it has a sonic boom, crack, right? So that's what we're going to hear. You're going to hear first in this tape, you're going to hear 3 very clearly distinct crack thumps. And then things get a little confusing, right? It gets a little fast. And so how do you count and all of that? Somebody, whoever put this video together, did the counting. Thank you for that. However, I think there's some room for interpretation here as well about that. So without any further ado, this is that
Take
audio
a look at what
we're
happened.
analyzing. Wait. Hang on. We're going to hear one more. There it was. There's that last one. Okay, one more time.
Take a look at what happened.
Listen to this. You hear that? That's 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then hard to unravel what's happening there because we have echoes. We've got them overstacking each other. So there's 2 supersonic cracks that come in, and later the thumps of the gun come in, the crack thumps. So it gets a little tricky to unravel. So let's do that and go there. Okay. First up, I want a big shout out to Mike Adams at Health Ranger. He was out with this within minutes for those first 3 shots. Clued me in to the idea that we really did need to take a look at the other one. So way to go, Mike. Thank you for picking that up and doing that. All right. This is the audio file. I pulled it into a program called Audacity,
which is just a very basic audio program. It's free. You download it off the internet, but whatever.
Right? Off of that video. And I find on here 9 separate shots. Okay. So I find 3, then a grouping of.
I have Audacity. I have much more sophisticated audio tools here as well. I understand audio editing. I've been editing audio engineering. I have a background in it. I'm educated. I understand it. Please continue.
5, and then one last one out there. Number 9, I think, this is the sniper shot that would have, I think, looks like it took out Crooks just above the left eyebrow. If you want to go look at those, or, the gross pictures, right? Obviously, he's all bloody and dead. They have that close-up picture of his face, right? And you can actually see a hole right about here over the left eyebrow. So we have those first 3 shots, then we have the 5, and then that last one. I'm not going to worry about the last one as much, but we're going to have to look at these first sets very, very carefully here. So here is video number 1. To orient ourselves, I count off of this video 15.8 seconds from the very first to the very last shot. So the AP article that said, Crooks took a shot and was neutralized by snipers within seconds. What they meant was 15.8 seconds, unless I have this story wrong. Next, we're going to look at these first 3 shots here so you understand how we can analyze the rest of them. And so here's the shot. This is the sonic crack. So that's the bullet is the blue arrows, and then the report is going to be the black arrows. So that's the crack, thump, crack, thump, crack, thump. And of course, it was the first bullet that nicked Trump's ear. And again, let me get my thing here. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so now I've just isolated the sound. There it is. Okay, whoops, sorry. One last time just to make sure we're hearing this right. There's 0.22 seconds between the crack and the thump, and knowing a little bit about the type of the bullet that was used and the caliber of it and the air conditions and things like that, you can estimate the distance of the shooter and how far away the shooter was. So that 0.22 second gap between the crack and the thump is very important because it helps us identify that a gun is being shot from that distance. If there were any other lengths, like if we saw a crack thump, we would clearly see that that was 2 separate weapons because assuming the first and the last crack thumps were the same distance apart. So if there's any variation between the crack and the thump, that's when you say, oh, that's a different weapon. So that's one way. The other way is just the tenor of just the sound of the weapon. Does it sound different? Now, this is interesting. This woman here had put up a video on TikTok. I really wish we could get the unaltered, I call it unmolested. I don't need all the words put on there. And it's not a consistent video, so there's edits in there. So I can't, if it ran from beginning to end, we could tell more, but I'm suspecting that we can tell a lot from it. So we're going to bring it up here because this is one of the videos, only videos that I know about, that shows, I think, the first stand victim getting shot. So here we go.
Side of Trump. I'm over on the far right or far left of Trump. These are the same bleachers. Watch the top left. These are the same exact bleachers. These are to the left of Trump. Those shots.
Okay. What I've done here is, so I just want us to look at, I just pulled out that one tiny section. You can clearly see a bullet careening off of this railing up here, and it does it with enough force to atomize and vaporize. And so I think this is an important clue. We'll see. So let's just look at that over and over again. Pew, did you see that? Again. Pew, see that? Okay, oops, one more time. And again. So you can clearly see this shot happening. Now, this gentleman who's right, and get my laser pointer back, this gentleman right here is in a very, very distinctive American flag shirt of some kind. You can see him hunch over there a little bit, and I'm pretty sure that that shot that you see careening off the rail struck him first. And the reason I think that struck him first, because we showed this before, is from this video that's after the fact. We're on the right side of the stands. You can see he's being brought down. And you can see here, he's holding, let me get my laser pointer back. He's holding his right chest, holding that, right? With his left arm is coming over. So his right chest, I don't know the extent of his injuries. I can't find any updates in the media right now. So we're going to be watching out for that. But if he was struck in that upper right chest and the bullet still managed to take something off of the railing into a puff, we see a very clear puff there. I don't think that's a .223 round. .223 round, a little 55 or a 62 grain bullet. When they hit, they tend to tumble. This would have to have had enough force to have nicked Trump's ear, if I'm right about this being the first shot, nicked his ear, traveled in, struck this gentleman, and still had enough force to vaporize either the...
He said, if I'm right. Doesn't he know? I thought this was rock solid, so he's supposed to be sure. It says if. So we've already, it's a big if.
Railing, or that was the bullet itself
He doesn't
atomizing.
know.
That was what that gray puff was. More likely that's a larger caliber round. But that's...
And he doesn't know what caliber. He doesn't know. Again, he doesn't have information. He doesn't have the right information. He doesn't have the details, and he's drawing conclusions based on incomplete information. But I'll dig in deeper.
Hypothesis, pure conjecture. I'm just throwing it out there as a placeholder. But that would be more consistent with something, say, in the
pure conjecture. But it's rock solid.
Some 30 caliber sort of a round, something with enough energy to penetrate and still atomize and vaporize on the back railing. But again, just a guess.
He's just guessing.
It's kind of irrelevant.
Just a guess.
But again, if we're back here, again with so I think you can see that puff right there.
I thought he had rock solid evidence.
Oops, sorry. And puff. 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 So he's been hit, and also it's on his right side. So, and if you see how he's oriented, he's all the way up against the back with his right side tipped towards the back. So this is as high up as you can get. Now, the other thing I need to point out about that is he is all the way in the highest row of bleacher seats. Those things start roughly at about stage level, which is about 3.5, 4 feet in the air. And then they go up level. So if you said it's, I don't know, a foot or 1.5 feet per level, he's clearly many feet up in the air, and he's standing. So that bullet that struck him has to be, I don't know, pick a number, 12, 15 feet in the air. Pretty high up, and that's going to become important again in just a second. All right, so this is plausible for the first shot then, okay? We see here if the shots came from the rooftop shooter first, then comes across the podium. Trump would have been standing right about there and could have struck somebody standing in the back right where that gentleman was with the flag shirt who got hit. So that's entirely plausible, but except it's a little bit more consistent with a rising shot, because if we put the podium at about 3.5 feet, 4, let's call it 4, we'll put Trump at 6'3", but take 3 inches off, so 10 feet. 10 feet, that bullet goes whizzing by his ear. But if this is why we need all the trajectories, that's why we need all this mapped out, that's why we need an absolute accounting of every single shot taken. If that was the first shot that struck that gentleman, okay?
So he's sitting here saying if, and we need, and we have to have, they need this information, we have to have the trajectories. That's right, you do. You need that information. You need measurements, you need a forensic investigation down there, but he's drawing conclusions. He's telling you as rock solid information, rock solid evidence to tell you that there was absolutely a second shooter when in fact he really does not know because he doesn't have all the information.
And that's why if I had that unmolested video and I could piece it in, I could tell you exactly. So hold this as just a bunch of conjecture until we have more. But if that gentleman was struck by the same bullet that took Trump's ear, that means that thing must have been on a rising trajectory because Trump's at 10 feet.
And he doesn't know.
Further back, this guy, his chest
There's a lot
is
he doesn't
probably
know.
at 13, 14 feet. It's higher in the air. That would have been more consistent with a shot fired from lower down that was then rising instead of a...
Enough. He doesn't know. He hasn't got a clue. He's just speculating. He does not have rock solid information. He doesn't, and his methodology is completely flawed. Absolutely completely flawed. He's telling you that he knows there was a second gunman. He doesn't know. He's guessing, speculating. He's creating a video that's generating a lot of clicks and casting doubt, sowing seeds of doubt. There are some people out there who do that kind of thing on purpose because they're not on your side. All right. You cannot determine the location of a gunshot using audio recordings with a single microphone. You need at least 2. Calculating the location of a gunshot using sound waves typically involves a process known as acoustic triangulation or multilateration. The process uses multiple microphones placed at different locations to detect the sound of the gunshot. So how does it work? You have multiple microphones. At least 3 are needed, but more can improve accuracy. And these microphones are placed at known fixed positions in the area where you want to detect the gunshot. Now, he talks about the time difference of arrival, or the TDOA. When a gunshot occurs, the sound wave will reach each microphone at slightly different times. The differences in these arrival times are called the time difference of arrival. Okay? But these guys are all using single audio sources recorded on cell phones or a cell phone. And the exact location of these phones is not really known. So you don't get an accurate bead on where the location of the audio device, but you have to have multiple locations. Distance calculation, using the speed of sound in the air, approximately 343 meters per second at sea level and room temperature, the distances from the sound source to each microphone, and I looked this up, can be calculated based on TDOA. Triangulation and multilateration, okay, how does that work? By solving a set of equations that account for the positions of the microphones and the calculated distances, the location of the sound source can be determined. This typically involves some complex mathematics, including solving systems of nonlinear equations. It takes a little bit more than some guy sitting at his house or in a studio someplace using videos that he's, skimmed off YouTube or TikTok and then downloading the audio file and putting it into a free audio editing program that he downloaded off the internet, Audacity, to determine the locations of gunfire in a place that he hasn't even visited and can't be sure of even measurements based on aerial photos or even the videos that he's seeing on the internet. He doesn't know. It takes precise measurements. It takes forensic audit of the area, a forensic investigation. It takes a ballistician. A ballistician is an expert in ballistics, guns, weapons, bullets. It might take more than just a ballistician, audio engineers. The other reason the methodology is flawed is because those audio recordings are noisy. There's echoes and other noise. And he acknowledges that, actually. He says that it's really noisy. You can't really determine what goes on after, especially after those first 3 shots. But you can't tell exactly where the audio is coming from because you only have one audio source. And even if they found other recordings or skimmed other recordings off the internet, you would need to determine the precise location of where that phone or microphone, the other microphones were in relation to the original recording where that microphone was positioned. And you'd have to account for other variables. And he wouldn't know. You don't know where those phones are exactly located because you need to be able to calculate the distance. And if you don't know exactly where those microphones are positioned, you can't really tell where the shots are coming from. You can't tell from a single audio recording. You've got environmental factors. The speed of sound can vary with temperature, humidity, air pressure, all of these things. The microphones have to be synchronized as well to accurately measure the time differences. When I know video production, and if you have a multi-camera shoot, there are a couple of different ways to sync. There's one main way to synchronize a multi-camera shoot, and it's a thing called time code. It's a digital embedment of what essentially is, it's like a digital equivalent of the little holes in a film that the sprocket in a film projector would grab a hold of to pull the film through a projector. Time code. You can set your time code at 0, and then you synchronize your cameras using time code so that they both run at exactly the same time. So when they're both running, you can then take your footage back to the studio, and if those cameras are synced and the time code is synchronized, when you put your video into the computer, you can then line the footage up on the timeline so that it overlays and it's exactly the same from all the different cameras. So you have everything lined up in exactly the same time. So you can shoot from multiple angles and cut from one camera to the other with the recorded video. And it's all in sync. If it's not in sync, your audio is out of sync. The lips are doing this when people are talking and it doesn't match. And the footage doesn't match, so that if someone's reaching over here, if I grab a pen and I bring it into frame and then you cut to the other camera, if it's not in sync, it won't look the same. You'll be able to tell that it was shot at a different time because my arm might already be in here instead of out here where it's supposed to be when you go to that cut point. The audio has to be synced as well. And I can also tell you that even short distances when you're recording audio can make a difference even in time code. Because if you're shooting something from even, say, 50 feet away and you've got people talking like that, The lips might not actually be in sync if you were recording the audio over on the camera 50 feet away versus picking up the audio right here if there's a microphone right in front of me, because it takes time for the sound to travel from here to there. And then if you have, as I just said, environmental factors, that can even be affected by wind. And then you have other factors like noise, reflections. The environment can introduce noise and reflections that complicate the detection and analysis of the sound waves. Advanced signal processing techniques are really needed, especially in an environment like that audio was recorded in, to mitigate those kinds of issues. And you can't really do that using Audacity. Now, you could get a better result using Adobe. I have the Adobe audio tools here, and I can eliminate completely a lot of background sounds from things. But even then, if you are trying to even determine, they're saying that, it's multiple shots and it sounds different, but in order to even accurately analyze that, you need consistency in the kinds of microphones that are used. You can get a different tone just because of where a microphone is positioned. Even if it's only 10 or 20 feet away, 5 feet away, you could turn the phone this way and get a different tone, a different note. It will sound completely different. If you turn the camera down, if someone has their hand over here shielding it, the microphone, a different type of microphone will sound completely different than another type of microphone. This microphone here, if I recorded audio using this microphone, and then I took a different mic and hooked it up to this same audio system and recorded exactly the same sentence using the same voice, the tone, the tenor won't even match. It won't matter how hard I try to make it sound the same. If it's a different microphone, it will sound different. It'll sound tinnier or bassier. That's why people in audio recording studios, that's why musicians spend big money on expensive microphones. Every mic sounds a little bit different. So if you're really trying to analyze the tone of audio to determine the caliber of a bullet being fired, you need consistent recording. And you need to, all those microphones would also need to be calibrated the same, using the same recording software with the same settings in order to make sure that they were recorded and the audio sounded exactly the same. Now, the tone itself can be affected by and analyzed from a single source, I suppose, but even then, you've got echo, you don't know where those sounds are coming from. And in a dirty audio environment like that, with people screaming and cheering and laughing and crying and shouting and sound bouncing off who knows what, it's very difficult to get an accurate beat on what the audio really means. And then you'd need some sort of reference audio to determine what, the sound signature is. So you cannot accurately triangulate and locate the position of a gunshot using a recording from a single microphone alone, which is what he's doing, which is what it appears even the people at CNN were doing. It's not accurate. Triangulation and locating a sound source, such as a gunshot, relies on detecting the time differences of the sound's arrival at multiple locations. A single microphone records the sound wave, but it doesn't provide any information about the direction from which the sound arrived. It can only provide the time at which the sound was detected and the sound's intensity. Triangulation or multilateration requires the comparison of arrival times at different microphones to determine the relative distances from the sound source to each microphone. With only one microphone, there are no other arrival times to compare. So the methodology is flawed. I'm not sitting here making any claims tonight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ruling anything out. I'm not saying that there absolutely for sure was not a second shooter. I'm open to anything, especially at this early stage in an investigation. Police, investigators, they also need to have an open mind when it comes to these things. They have to consider everything. They put everything on the table, and then using proper methodology, begin to eliminate things that are simply not true or things that didn't happen. They start to dig in and figure out what the truth is using real science, using the evidence that they have available to them, but relying on real information and using sound methodology. And I don't mean sound like you hear, I mean good methodology. The approach has to be scientifically sound. What he's doing is not scientifically sound. What he's doing is he's a layman who doesn't really know what he's talking about, and he's got a little tiny bit of knowledge, and he's reaching conclusions and putting out this video that is taking you intentionally down a rabbit hole to nowhere, because what he's presenting to you is not rock solid. It is conjecture. It's complete speculation based on nothing more than him creating a sensationalistic piece of clickbait designed to confuse you, get you upset, and get you to watch his video. That's all it is. It's bunk. Now, I'm sure that the authorities are very interested in watching all of the same video footage, and they may put that to use in a variety of ways. But the way that he's analyzing it, the methodology is not valid. The video is not valid. It is not rock solid evidence. The truth of the matter is he does not know. He doesn't know anything more than you know, or that I know, or that anybody else knows. He doesn't know. And he's telling you as rock solid information that he does. It's not true. He doesn't. And yet that video is going viral. You know, that's sort of the game these days, isn't it? And it has been for a long time, actually. Sow seeds of doubt so that when the truth is presented to you, which we all need, people won't accept it. There's so much of this crap out there that it's going to make it impossible for people to know what the truth is. Thank God Donald Trump was not killed by the bullet. Thank God. And actually, let me take a little break here because we have a guest coming on, and I'll have a little bit more to say about this on the other side. Hang on. I've got a special guest coming up right after this. And don't shoot the messenger, okay? Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just giving you some actual factual information and just telling you that you shouldn't just accept this stuff at face value. None of us should. I'm always saying question everything, read everything, but question it. And this guy's not an expert, nor am I when it comes to ballistics. I know about audio production, but that alone is not enough either. I'm not drawing any conclusions tonight. I'm not making any other claims other than this video is not rock solid information.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
To further illustrate my point before we get to our special guest on the phone tonight, Brandon Pringle, before we get to him, I just want to further illustrate what I'm talking about. People are freaking out about 15-minute cities and blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things that they want to employ and are already using in many, especially heavily populated areas, is gunshot detectors. Gunshot detection technology to keep people safe, to try to make neighborhoods safer, especially in big cities. And these sensors, microphones, they're placed on lampposts, which everybody freaks out about because, it's like, lamppost, my mind is blowing up, it's mind control. No, what that actually is one of the things that they use those for. And here I'll show you. It's not mind control. It's to keep you safe. Gunshot detectors. And these have been very helpful in some communities, but there are some problems with them. And to just further illustrate that it is, it's not adequate to simply take a video off TikTok and then say there were multiple shooters for sure. No, because even using this technology, they have some difficulties with them. Now, I know from doing further research that they place, using this technology, they'll have as many as 25 microphones per square. Hang on, let me just get you 20 to 25 microphones per square mile in cities where it is installed. 20 to 25 microphones per square mile using this technology. And then, of course, it's all hooked up to computers. And then that information is used to it's used to do exactly what he's trying to do using free software he downloads off the internet, Audacity. They have computer programs, software that instantly analyzes the information to triangulate the position of the gunshot and determine what kind of weapon was used to fire the round. But even with all that technology, even with all those microphones, they sometimes have difficulty locating the position and determining the caliber of bullet used. And that's why the American Civil Liberties Union has concerns about this kind of information being used in court, because it's not even then entirely accurate. And that kind of information is sometimes being used against people in court. And they say that can be a violation of people's rights, which is where people's concerns legitimately come into play with regard to 15-minute cities. That's a legitimate concern. But if they've got 20 to 25 microphones per square mile hooked up to the most sophisticated software available to determine the kind of information that we just talked about, don't you think that's a little bit more bulletproof, if you will, in terms of methodology than downloading Audacity off the internet and then making a video that's intended to blow holes in the official narrative, when in reality where we are really at is the early stages of an investigation that needs a lot of scrutiny, and there are a lot of questions that need to be answered because obviously there were failures. And Donald Trump was almost killed. And that's fact. We need real facts, real information, and I'm going to get mine, not from guys like that, because he's just making clickbait. But believe what you want. If you want to go down his rabbit hole, have a nice day. Okay? But I'm going to keep my head in the clear. Let's go to my friend Brandon Pringle. Hello, sir. How are you?
Fantastic, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. And I'm glad you could join us tonight. I'm excited to talk to you because I know that you have a big event coming up. But first of all, just reintroduce yourself to people in case people don't remember your last appearance here on Maverick News.
All right. Thanks, Rick. I'm very grateful to be on the show again. Shout out to Rimby John for making this happen. So last time I was on the show, we were talking about protecting the children. And there was a lady from Ontario that we were on, And most folks don't know that about literally hundreds of little girls have had their breasts cut off in this madness. And so she was standing up in this, and I'm trying to, let people know about this. So that was what we talked about in our last show. And then before that, I was on a little bit with Pastor Artur Pawlowski, and I ran for the Solidarity Party under his banner. So and then kind of what our event is tomorrow is kind of trying to move the ball forward on the same things that we were talking about then. You want to just keep going, Rick, or
yeah, you keep going. So
questions.
Well, I mean, you're on a roll, so
Okay,
so please continue. Tell us about this big event.
I can talk for an hour, so just please interrupt me at any moment.
Okay.
What Winston Churchill said: the farther you look into the past, the farther you can see into the future. And Winston Churchill fought in the Boer War. He was a member of British Parliament for many, many years, and he knew exactly what Hitler was doing. And he was trying to wake up the government to what Hitler was doing, and it 100% fell on deaf ears. All the tanks they were building, everything, they were just completely ignorant and actually wanting to deny reality. And so to the point that it's so ridiculous now, but Chamberlain, the prime minister at the time, had tea with Hitler in 1938 after Hitler had signed treaties. And so nothing to see here. It's all fine. Everything's wonderful. And of course, a year later, Winston Churchill was proved correct. Chamberlain resigned in disgrace. And the king came to Winston Churchill and said, "Will you lead the government?"
Brandon, let's just backtrack here. What's this got to do with your event?
Well, what it has to do with our event is we are now right now in pre-World War II Germany. This is if you read the book by Eric Metaxas called Bonhoeffer, it's a story of the German pastor who was going all around Germany trying to wake up the church to step up to the plate, to wake them up to the spiritual side of what Winston Churchill was trying to wake them up to in the physical side.
Sure, I understand, but okay, let's zero in and focus here a little bit though, because I don't think we want to get into a giant history lesson. We want to tell people about your event. So first of all, what's the name of your event?
Well, it's called For Such a Time, and it actually comes from it's from a verse in the Bible, and it's a very famous story about Esther, Queen Esther, who was a Jew in the Babylonian Empire, and nobody knew that she was a Jew, and so this wicked man named Haman engineered a plan to murder all the Jews in the whole empire. Mm-hmm. And her uncle became aware of the plan and said to Queen Esther, "Esther, you need to talk to the king." And Queen Esther said, but uncle, if I go in there and he doesn't accept me, they'll execute me. And Mordecai said to her, "Esther."
Okay, again, Brandon.
For such a time as this.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. But again,
Mordecai said, "For such a time as this, you don't know." And so she stepped up to the plate to protect her people. And this is what we need in Canada right now. We need brave people like that woman that you had in from Ontario. I'm so terrible. I can't think of her name right, but stepping up to the plate, getting involved in the school boards to protect and defend the kids from this terrible stuff that is going on right now, showing people the historical context. And when I had, there was another great journalist, and he was going to interview me, and he said to me, I said to him, "Well, the church is not doing their job." And he's an atheist. And he said to me, Yeah, why isn't the church doing their job?
Okay.
And so why does an atheist know what the church's job is, but the church doesn't know what the church's job is?
Sure.
That's a pretty important question to answer.
It is, but what we need to do is talk about your event. Okay, let's just the who, what, where, when.
So I'll tell you who's speaking. So
good.
Dr.
There we
Michael
go. That's
Wagner.
what we need to know.
Sorry?
That's what we need to know. Who's
okay?
Who are the headliners?
Dr. Michael Wagner is speaking. He is a PhD of political science at the University of Calgary. He's written 10 books on leaving morals out of government, and the Alberta, the whole 100-year history about how they convinced Alberta to get into confederation for not good reasons, which I could tell you in some other show. And so he's written 10 books. He's been on the Western Standard for years as a columnist. Mm-hmm. And then our second guest is going to be Leighton Gray. He's on Gray Matter Convoy on X platform. Mm-hmm. He is also was one of the lead litigators that helped Dina Henshaw get fired because of the illegal mandates that were implemented in Alberta.
Right.
And he's also the lead litigator in the class action lawsuit against the government for the massive harms that were done to people during the last 4 years. And so then our third speaker is going to be Dr. Roger Hodkinson. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Roger, some that were really paying attention way back 4 years ago when this first started, he was the very first doctor in Canada that went publicly on television, made a video, and put it out there saying, this is garbage. This is being way blown out of proportion. Mm-hmm. The damage that's going to be done to people, is it a real thing? Does it exist? Absolutely. But sure. The harms that are being done to and the hysteria that's being pushed by the government is not adequate.
Right, and he was he was at one time a medical officer of health, I believe,
yes, and he's Oxford educated, mm-hmm. and he came to Canada 40 years ago, and he's when people in Britain that were we were so isolated from what happened in World War II. People in Britain weren't. And so many of them, my friends that are Russian, Ukrainian, they're all kicking me in the shin saying, Brandon, what is wrong with you Canadians? Wake up. We left a terrible place to come here to be safe. And now you guys are giving your country away. We sing the national anthem that says, "O Canada, we stand on guard for thee." And I'm embarrassed to say that for most of my life, I have not stood on guard for Canada. So that's done. That's over. That person is dead. I am going to stand on guard for Canada. I'm not going to just be quiet anymore. And we have to honor the brave men and women that gave their lives to give us this freedom.
Sure.
And enough is enough. So,
and that's why you're holding this event. And where is this happening?
This is happening at the Chateau Nova. It's 159 Airport Road in Edmonton. It is a free event. It is happening from 1 p.m. until 9 p.m. We will have opportunity for people to ask questions.
And what day? 1 p.m.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
And for those of you who aren't in the area, but obviously we've made this sound so exciting, you absolutely don't want to miss it. It's going to be on live stream.
Okay.
So we'll be live streaming the event, and the address is suchatime.ca. Very, very simple. Just such as in such,
yep.
A time. So 9 letters, suchatime.ca. And there'll be a link there, live stream button. And when you go on there as well, there will be links to all the speakers. So if any one of them on the live stream says something that you're interested in or you want to talk about them further, You can reach out to Leighton at Grey Matter Convoy on Twitter. My email, redpilled2024@proton.me, will be on the site. So definitely, if you have other questions, or please reach out, leave a message. Unfortunately, we just don't have time to clarify some things. You just have to say, and then, give people an opportunity to ask questions later. Oh, hey, that sounds a little, can you give me more information on that? So we can't just give everybody all the everything that needs to be said in this discussion, but we do have to step up to the plate. We do have to stand, and no better place than in Edmonton, the capital of Alberta. Okay. This is where it starts. So
excellent. Okay, so just to summarize again, tomorrow 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. And what time zone are you guys in Alberta?
Mountain
time.
So you're about 8:15 where you are right now. Is that right, Rick?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that's 6:15 in Alberta. So 2 hours behind.
So if you're
where Rick is, Ontario, yeah.
So I'm in Eastern time. So there's a 2-hour difference there, but it is, if you're confused, folks, Mountain time, so you can look that up, but it'll be 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Mountain time. And yes, you can, again, watch that online if you would like to at such a time as this, from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow. And
I'm so sorry, Rick. I got it correct there. I probably messed you up. It's for such a time.ca.
Oh, for such a time.ca. Okay.
Yes. Our poster says for such a time as this, and that's where the confusion is. And I keep saying it, so I mess people up. So,
okay. So it's for such a time.ca.
.ca. You betcha. And of course, anytime anybody wants to reach out to me, they can reach me at redpilled2024@proton.me. If they have any questions, or they want to kick me in the shin and say, hey, I don't agree with you. And this is why I really appreciate your platform so much, Rick, because, and actually, I would have actually invited you and give you a free table, but unfortunately you're in Ontario, so I think you could have flown all the way out here.
Well, I'll probably tune in and see what's going on.
I mean, anyway, you are doing such an important, we're supposed to, that's what, and actually this is about defending and protecting freedom of speech. That the government is, I mean, Pierre brought in C4, which basically made it illegal to tell someone that a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. That's actually illegal in this country. You can get 5 years in prison for that. So people are like, well, that seems kind of not believable, but all you have to do is, if you go on my Substack, you can see it. At Brandon Pringle Substack, if you type that in, you can actually see who voted, which MPs voted for the conversion therapy bill. And that's how it starts. And so Hitler didn't just take control of the country overnight. He put in this little law and this little rule and this little law until it was too late. People weren't awake, and you're doing such a good job at waking people up and saying, hey, it's so important that we talk about these things and we make them public. They're not hidden. There's no reason to hide these things. If they're being hidden, it's for a reason, and it's never a good reason.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about something when I complete this call with you to show people exactly how we're being sort of led around by the nose at times. Yeah. With some stats and things that I'm going to show in another story that's kind of related loosely to what we're talking about here right now.
Yeah.
So I'll be showing people that very, very shortly. Is there anything else you think people need to know about your event tomorrow that we've maybe missed?
It's if you're an atheist, I have something amazing for you. If you're a church person, I have something for you. My biggest shout out is to the atheists, because I really wish they would come, because I'm going to give them full permission to every person that they know that claims they believe in God. I give them full permission to go kick them in the shin. Okay, I'm joking. That's a joke. I'm not advocating for any fisticuffs here. But I give them full permission to ask people that claim they believe in God, I know what your book says about what your job is. Why aren't you doing it? So there's going to be some truth bombs, and people are going to leave. I mean, some people are traveling from 5 hours away for this event. So and we just got a website up 3 days ago, and we've already had inquiries, and we're actually looking at we actually might run out of room. So so definitely this will not be the last one. This is just the first one. We're just getting started. So I so appreciate you having me, Rick, and I so appreciate what you're doing. What you're doing is some of the most important work that is out there, getting people to wake up, getting people to question the narrative. And because we've been just so much of this false things have been pushed for so long, the media is so dishonest now. And people like you are doing such a good job at keeping them honest. So, CNN's mainstream media is dying. CNN's laying off a whole bunch of people. Chorus Entertainment here in Canada, they got a $600 million bailout from Trudeau, and they're laying people off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, the work you're doing, Rick, is some of the most important work there is out there. So if you're out there and you haven't, you're on the fence and you're trying to figure out if you're going to support Rick or not, go and start supporting him. And Rick does not know that I'm doing this right now. He did not know. So he probably said, don't do it. So I'm just doing it. So, I mean, if we had,
thank you.
If we had, like, not kidding, if we had 2,000 people giving Rick $5 a month, holy mackerel, man, the stuff that he could go and do. And it's just, he's one guy. He can't spin 12 plates, at once. So, the more every dollar that you help Rick with is like when they were fighting in World War II, there were the young guys fighting on the front lines, but back here in Canada, there were grandmas making bullets, and so help Rick out, because put an arrow in his quiver so he can go and get more of this truth for us.
Well, and what we're just doing here right now really is just directing people to your event tomorrow for suchatime.ca. You'll find information about the event there. The website's there. That's where you'll be able to see the live stream if you're not able to attend in person tomorrow between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. in Edmonton. And what was the name of the venue again?
The name of the venue is the Chateau Nova Kingsway. There's multiple hotels that are Chateau Nova. So it's Chateau Nova Kingsway.
At 159 Airport Road. And That's all tomorrow. So Brandon Pringle from Edmonton, thank you, sir, very much. As always, an absolute pleasure to have you on the program, and we'll have you on again real soon. I will be tuning in tomorrow to take a look at what is going on out there. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rick. Greatly appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. And we will be right back, folks, on the other side of this.
Someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV,
The entire world is watching.
on social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Back just briefly to just cap off the information I was sharing on triangulation and detection of gunshots. Here's just another example of what I'm talking about to just show you that I'm not just making the stuff up. This is how it's done. Okay? Next generation gunshot positioning system. Triangula is an artificial intelligence software that detects and positions gunshots. And this is being done, it can be done with cell phones using this artificial intelligence software. And as you can see, they're using a minimum of 3 cell phones in precise locations in order to determine the exact information we've been talking about. Where the shot was fired from, and even what caliber of bullet. But it's using sophisticated AI technology connected to devices with known positions and known parameters. So they're controlling variables. That's the minimum that you need in order to get that the correct kind of information. I have other stuff here on it all as well. I mean, and the equations are quite complex. It's not a matter of just sitting in a chair. Here's a study to show you how complex it is to figure this stuff out. That's why snipers have whole teams of people that work with them. A sniper generally does not just show up, especially if they're taking a very difficult shot from a long distance. They have a whole team that they work with. Military snipers. In order to get positions, get all the right variables. This is a study I was looking at earlier today, produced in 2021 from Brigham Young University in Idaho. And again, I'm not a ballistician. I'm not an arms expert, but I know enough to know that the stuff I'm seeing online right now, multiple videos, multiple reports, and it's flawed. Nothing concrete or rock solid about it. Now, moving on, and we'll get back into a little bit of that kind of stuff. I did mention that Joe Biden, his family, is reportedly talking to him and trying to work out some sort of an exit strategy should he decide to step aside as the candidate for the Democrats in the presidential election. And then in the aftermath of his disastrous debate performance, in the tidal wave of emotion that has spilled over as a result of the failed assassination attempt on Trump and now Trump's speech last night, Biden has now released his own video calling for exactly what Trump called for last night, right off the top of his speech: unity. Now, how effective, how will this even resonate with people? I don't think this is going to have as much impact as Trump's speech did last night. I know that Democrats, as Trump's political opponents, are trying to downplay and even undermine the reach and effectiveness of his address last night. But the truth of the matter is, it was a barn burner of a speech from the former president. And now the current president, Biden, releases this. Check it out.
Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. You know, from the beginning, our founders understood the power of passion. So they created democracy that gave reason and balance a chance to prevail over brute force. That's the American we must be. An American democracy where arguments are made in good faith. An American democracy where the rule of law is respected. An American democracy where decency, dignity, fair play aren't just quaint notions, but living, breathing realities. We owe that to those who come before us, to those who gave their lives for this country. We owe that to ourselves. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. Look, let's never lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together.
I don't know if that's a campaign video. It's demarcated as coming from the White House. So I think that's really a video just aimed at the American people, not intended to be a campaign message, but a call for unity and to dial things down. I applaud that. I think it's been a long time in coming, too late and too little. But what happened to Trump has served as a wake-up call for America in a way. And I just wish that this kind of positive narrative had been spun up a long time ago, because look at the state the nation is in right now, not just in America, but in Canada and in Western nations in general. We need to get back to a place of stability and decency. I think we really do. But I look at the inflammatory language that has been used over the past, especially the last 8 years. And it has not been healthy for democracy. It hasn't been healthy for the country. And now we're on the brink of a third world war. Oh, also, excuse me, I forgot to show you this one. This one, I'm sorry. This is related to the, there's absolutely another shooter. Rock solid theory. The theory is not rock solid. Check out this. I don't know how this guy supposedly got down a zip line without being detected. And it's up to people on social media to alert us all to it. But anyway, I'm just going to let it roll. You guys want to go down this rabbit hole? There you go. Oh, man.
So the tweet you're about to read here on the screen is pretty interesting, and I think a lot of people need to look into this. So we've tracked a black SUV that had picked up the Phantom Water Tower sniper that escaped using a zip line via the backside of the water tower into the trees and then on foot for a short jaunt to Meridian Road. With 100% confidence, based on the cell phone data, that particular sniper was an FBI agent, and the SUV was registered to the Department of Agriculture. Did you know that under the Obama administration, DHS was given more power than the CIA? So the man that runs DHS, Alexander Mayorkas, who's going to be charged with treason, who, if there was any one person that I was going to pinpoint and say, yup, that person, when this is all said and done, that one man is going to be charged with treason 100%. If there was just one, I could guarantee you that would be charged with treason. It's going to be Mayorkas.
And then he got on a zip line and he zip lined down and got away in an SUV from the Department of Agriculture. Going to be needing a little bit of evidence to back that one up. Just saying. Not helpful. Not helpful. Unless your goal is to just spread chaos. And that is indeed what some of these people are doing. That is honestly their objective. It's just to stir things up and cause chaos. Or maybe just to get clicks. Either way, it's not good for people. That's my opinion. You can have your own. Don't shoot the messenger. Oh, yeah. Talking about last night, Donald Trump talked about missiles inside the Russian subs in Cuba. And he said, the mainstream media is not even talking about that. Of course not. We're in an election cycle. Do you think that they want people scared when the guy they want in the White House has implemented foreign policy that has resulted in nuclear submarines from Russia being parked just about, 60 miles off the coast of Florida? No, they don't want to talk about that. That is another Cuban Missile Crisis, but it's a little more serious than that even because, well, here, check out this headline from Sputnik, Russian media. This is a news story, a new news story published just hours ago. What's the headline? Well, you're looking at it. Russian missiles off Alaska? How Moscow can respond to the U.S.'s short-sighted Euro missile plans. So basically what they're saying is that what they're talking about here is Moscow having a wide array of options when it comes to responding to the U.S. decision to deploy Tomahawk cruise and hypersonic missiles in Germany. So they're talking about, just parking some nukes off the coast of Alaska. So we'll have nuclear submarines in Cuba, and we'll have Russian nuclear submarines off the coast of Alaska. Or so goes the story in Sputnik. Is the mainstream media over here talking about any of that? No. But that's what we have under Biden. And I think Trump is right. If this was a Trump administration, the mainstream media probably wouldn't shut up about it. But with Biden in the White House, it's all mum is the word. We'll see. Just thought I'd alert you to that because we do talk about things here on all sides, and we do try to provide balance. And there's saber rattling there, and that is Russian media trying to send a message globally and especially to the United States by publishing that story. I mean, you have to temper that with a little bit of perspective and determine what degree of threat elevation that really represents. I don't know. It represents something, if nothing more than elevated rhetoric, more inflammatory language, more saber rattling. And we're seeing tonight the Houthis taking credit for a drone strike on Israel. Here, I'll show you the headlines on this one. Gaza war latest. Drone strike hits Tel Aviv, killing 1 and injuring at least 10. We have video. Let me see if I can find it. I do indeed have that for you. Let me get that positioned over here and over there. Okay, so this drone, we're told, was launched from Yemen, a couple thousand kilometers away. I think. It made its way all the way to Tel Aviv. This is what it looked like.
Ты видишь, дрон летит? Висюш, ты видишь, что это такое? Блядь! Пиздец!
So that signals additional escalation in the Gaza conflict. More trouble for Israel. And you know, the Houthis are causing some problems there for shipping in the Red Sea. And it continues to be a concern to such a degree for shipping companies that some shipping companies will no longer send ships into that area. They go the long way around, no longer using that shorter trade route. They'll go all the way around the long way, adding a lot of time and expense to shipping their goods. But they, because of what the Houthis are doing there, they don't feel it's worth the risk of possibly losing a ship to a Houthi attack. We'll continue to follow that. And back to what I was talking about last night in response to these estimated death figures in Gaza. Johnny has been sending me information about this, and I've seen him in the chat saying, 200,000 dead in Gaza. And I said, not so fast. Not so fast. The truth is, again, I'm not ruling anything out. But what I'm saying is, we don't know. And the methodology being used, even by people who know better, in this case, is flawed. I touched on it last night because Johnny mentioned it in the chat. And I want to elaborate a little bit on it to show you not only is the methodology flawed, the article in the Lancet, a medical journal, which is supposed to be highly respected globally, but it's not just the methodology. The article is written with a bias. And there's a history of that happening. And I'm going to show you that the Lancet is actually leading people around by the nose sometimes, and I think this is one of those times, for political reasons, and science and mathematics and accuracy and truth have gone out the window for political reasons. Let me explain. Okay? Here's a headline in Al Jazeera. And this is not the only media outlet. Mainstream media, even in North America, some mainstream media have latched onto this story and they have reported this as being factual. But it's a trap because the Lancet, being a medical journal, is viewed as being authoritative and credible, a trusted source of information, treated thus, presented that way in the mainstream media so that they can then just take that information and present it to the public as though it is just factual because it came from the Lancet. And who would ever question anything coming from the Lancet, which is a medical journal? Well, I put it to you that this is a political hit job, a piece of propaganda. It's not information that is being distributed based on fact or proper methodology. Gaza toll could exceed 186,000, Lancet study says. So that's the way Al Jazeera is reporting it. And it's been that way in other mainstream media outlets, even in North America, that have used this information. But there is a problem with it. It says here, the way this is being reported, it says the cumulative effects of Israel's war on Gaza could mean, and this is Al Jazeera, okay? This is not pro-Israel media, but they're acknowledging here that this is a projection, a projected possible death toll, could mean the true death toll could reach, not there yet, could reach more than 186,000 people, according to a study published in the journal Lancet. According to Gaza's Ministry of Health, which is Hamas. So right there, I automatically question any data in a war coming from any government. And in Gaza, Hamas is the government. Just as I would question any data coming directly from Israel. So I automatically question it. And because they have political motivation to exaggerate the numbers, skew them. And the only data, information on death tolls out of Gaza is coming from Hamas, the Gaza Ministry of Health. That's the only source that has been available, period, globally. So according to the Ministry of Health, more than 38,000 Palestinians have been killed since Israel launched its military offensive on October 7th in the wake of a deadly Hamas attack. And that's the number that's been largely reported until now. The study pointed out 38,000. But the study pointed out that the death toll is higher because the official toll does not take into account thousands of dead buried under rubble and indirect deaths due to destruction of health facilities, food distribution systems, and other public infrastructure. So you see already what these headlines and what the news stories have done is they're just making you think that the Israelis have gone in there and they've just mowed down and killed. Well, in Johnny's case, and I've seen the same number that he has been using, 200,000. Although here in Al Jazeera, I think that it's actually more accurate in what's being reported based on the Lancet. 186,000. Johnny's saying 200,000. And I'm not trying to pick on you, Johnny, but 200,000 was the number used, and he's not the only one. But the thing is, the stories, the headlines are designed to just make people think that, oh, the Jews went in there, the Israelis, the Zionists went in and just killed all these people. And that's what, Johnny, my friend, believes. But that's not the case. That's a projected number, first of all. They don't know if that's actually where we're at. In fact, they're saying it could reach that number. But their methodology is flawed. First of all, they're using numbers from Hamas that they don't know if they're even accurate. And then they're using a computer model that makes a lot of assumptions. I've read the article, and they're making a lot of assumptions. If this holds true, if that holds true. And then they're extrapolating and saying the numbers are probably, well, at least 4 times higher than what is being reported. They're guessing. It's a guess. They don't know. I've said from the beginning, I don't know how many people have been killed. We don't know. We're not getting enough accurate information. And all this article in the Lancet the journal Lancet, is an estimation based on some people who sat around and decided that it's probably at least 4 times higher. So we'll just write an article about that. And we'll put that out there. But you see, when they say it, it carries a lot of weight. And that gives license to other media outlets to report that number. I put it to you that this is politically motivated. And there's evidence to support what I'm saying. Now, I don't know. Maybe it would get to 186,000 or 200,000 or some other number. I don't know. This is my bottom line. I need facts. But I do know that That number, 186,000, does not differentiate between civilians and military, Hamas. It does, it also, I know that the methodology used uses excess deaths to make the calculation. Essentially, they're holding Israel responsible and the IDF responsible for every single death that occurs in Gaza, has occurred in Gaza over a period of time, say a year. They're holding Israel responsible for every death based on excess mortality. That's not to say that they were shot. It could be a heart attack. It could be cancer. It could be other illnesses. And they're holding Israel responsible for every single death like that, that is considered to be excess mortality over the course of a period of time. They're extrapolating, guessing, and conflating. I don't know that it's justified or fair to equate it in those ways or in those terms. I'm suggesting that it probably isn't, because there's a lot of politics surrounding even the distribution of aid. So if you're going to assign blame for people's deaths based on inadequate distribution of food aid, you better also point your finger at Hamas, because they've hijacked a lot of those food trucks. But how you spin this stuff is, determined a lot on your politics. And if you look at what the Lancet is a medical journal. It's supposed to be peer reviewed, but it is, they don't have the best track record. They are owned by, I'm just going to dig into what the Lancet is and show you why this is not what you think it is. The Lancet is owned by a huge publishing company called Elsevier, Dutch. Well, what is Elsevier? What is the Lancet? Well, you can look this stuff up, but the Lancet has a lot of specialty journals, and they have engaged in a lot of political things that I would say give rise to concern about the legitimacy and throw into question, especially this article on the death toll in Gaza. Back in August of 2014, for instance, again, during the 2014 Israel-Gaza conflict, the Lancet published an open letter at that time for the people of Gaza in their correspondence section. And the author of that letter was someone named Paola Manduca, professor of genetics at the University of Genoa in Italy. Now, back then, in the Daily Telegraph, this letter from the Lancet condemned Israel in the strongest possible terms, but also made no mention of any of the atrocities committed by Hamas. Again, just ignoring everything on the one side, blaming everything on Israel. At the time, it generated a lot of controversy. And threw the legitimacy, the credibility of the medical journal Lancet into question. The authors of this letter included doctors who had direct ties to extremist groups, including white supremacist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously, they're not a fan of Jewish people. So you had these guys who had direct ties, these doctors, to white supremacist groups writing this letter at the time. And I mean, you can look at it any way you want, but there's bias there again. And here we go again. I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, we don't know what these numbers really mean, other than they're just making them up. using computer modeling. This is also a publication that in February of 2020 published another open letter to the public, completely dismissing the lab leak theory related to COVID. And I don't know if you want to continue to put your trust in a publication like that and base, which, just like I said last night, this is a publication that led us astray, has led the public astray on more than one occasion. They wrote back in 2020 with regard to the lab leak theory, they said, conspiracy theories do nothing but create fear, rumors, and prejudice that jeopardize our global collaboration in the fight against this virus. They said at the time in this medical journal that the coronavirus originated in wildlife. That's what they wrote. That's what they said. And I can tell you that it was that assertion, that open letter back in 2020, that was one of the main things that public officials went to around the world to support their reactions, the government actions that were taken to lock people down and mask people up. This is the same publication. This is a medical journal that honestly doesn't really have the best track record, even though it's often cited by mainstream media as an authority in order to justify various articles that they write about a lot of different things. They can say, oh, it was in the Lancet. According to an article in the Lancet, this is absolute fact, you see, but it isn't always the case. So in that open letter, there were a couple of the doctors involved in that. If you start to dig into this, you really do start to go down some pretty serious rabbit holes. There's one doctor by the name of Richard Horton, and there's another one by the name of Richard Lynn, who they're accusing the Jews and Israel of being Nazis, but one of the doctors associated with some of these articles and publications, open letters, Richard Lynn. Here, I'll show you his Wikipedia page. You can look this guy up. What's he all about? Richard Lynn, controversial English psychologist and self-described scientific racist, who advocated for a genetic relationship between race and intelligence. He was editor-in-chief of Mankind Quarterly, a white supremacist journal. He was a professor emeritus of psychology at Ulster University. It goes on, down, down, down. Now, look, you can dial this back to some degree if you want and say, Wikipedia is biased. Yeah, probably is. Maybe in kind of left-leaning, but these guys are actually left-leaning in a fascistic way. And I'm not saying everything they say is wrong, but I am saying that they have a bias against Israel. And they're involved in this. And so when you're reading something that is being portrayed as scientific fact, or that it's sound science or methodology, when in fact it's just people making stuff up, numbers, taking a wild guess. And if they have a bias and political motivation, then I think you have to really, really, really question what you're looking at. And who are these people? These are the same people, folks, who got us into trouble during the pandemic in a really serious way. These are the same people who have justified the use of different pharmaceutical products that have also led to pretty serious complications in a lot of people. And I'm not just talking about the thing that you get in the arm. I'm talking about other medications as well. You can really start digging into these guys. And what is this guy into? He's into eugenics. And he's not the only one. There are other people involved in this too, directly involved, who are engaged in similar activities, who are, again, and maybe you want to be just like them. I don't know. I'm just recognizing the bias. Here's this other guy, this other contributor to Elsevier, parent company of The Lancet and The Lancet, Gerhard Meisenberg. Who's this guy? Meisenberg was on the editorial board for the journal Intelligence until late 2018. Geneticist Daniel MacArthur, writing for Wired, described a letter by Meisenberg sent to Nature as advocating for the future use of selective breeding or genetic engineering if group genetic differences in intelligence are found. Meisenberg attended and helped organize the London Conference on Intelligence and was one of 15 attendees to collaborate on a letter defending the conference following media reports of its ties to white supremacy, neo-Nazism, and racist pseudoscience. Now, who am I to say that they're being treated fairly by the media? Maybe not. But what I am saying is, even if you dial some of that rhetoric back and then take into account the bias of Wikipedia, there's still a glaring bias present in the authors of that article saying that the death toll in Gaza is much higher. And there's also a glaring bias in the parent company and the medical journal itself. It's clear in their history. So I think you should be very careful about who you're following. We all need to be very careful about who we're following, what we're believing, what we're accepting as fact. We need to be asking questions, scrutinizing all of these things, because I'm sorry, I'm just not trusting the guys who gave the ammunition and the justification to the politicians and bureaucrats who did these terrible things to us over the pandemic and are now somehow concealing themselves in such an effective way that they're not being questioned when they're actually the authors of a new study that is clearly politically motivated and becomes a source of information injection into the most volatile, controversial, emotional, and potentially explosive military conflict of our time. They've got an agenda, and we better be darn careful. I want facts, not politics. I'll be right back.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Johnny says, who do I trust? Let me just look in the chat. Tell us who you trust. You know what, ma'am? At the end of the day, I don't really fully trust any of these people on any side. I look at it all, and you have to take it all with a grain of salt, take it all in, stand back and say, what is real, what isn't, and you have to make an assessment. That's why whenever I'm looking at anything, I'm always saying, who's the author? Where do they come from? Who are they connected to? What does their past work reveal about them? What's their past work to say about their bias? And even then, people can have a change of heart or turn over a new leaf. If you're looking at you have to look at the information on a case-by-case basis. It's not an easy thing to do. 99.8% of the people out there don't have the time or the energy to look anywhere near that deep into things. So people tend to read headlines, maybe the first paragraph of something, but they don't get into the nitty-gritty on a lot of stuff. And when they do, I think, unfortunately, because there's such little trust left in mainstream media, that people are being led astray by other people who are leading them astray from independent media sources or from influencers who are tied into organizations, political organizations, just different groups that have other agendas. And because people tend to see things black and white, this side versus that side, not realizing that there are, multiple sides, and maybe no side in a particular situation is telling you the truth. Sometimes everybody's lying. Just because one person lies to you, or if you think CNN is lying to you, it doesn't mean that InfoWars isn't. Question it. Don't take everything I say at face value either, because sometimes the information that I get, I might be led astray. We have to consistently question the stuff. And I'm just saying, Johnny, I'm looking at that. And you look at the methodology. What are they really doing with any of this stuff? Whether it's multiple gunshots, how they're analyzing it, is that sound? Is that valid? Is that the right way to do it? Does that give you the correct result? Because if you're adding up 2 plus 2, but you're getting 8 is not the right answer. You need to use the right mathematics in order to get to 4. And just because we live in a world where everything is supposed to be a construct and you can identify as anything you want, when it comes down to, was there another shooter? I want facts. Show me hard evidence, and then we can talk. But if you're going to show me TikTok videos and then make all kinds of crazy claims based on, putting an audio file into Audacity, I'm just not there. I'm still open to anything, but I'm not going to accept a conclusion based on flawed methodology, either on that or anything else. I'm always questioning. I owe it to you guys to do that. I promised you I would. And so I continue to do that every night when I sit in this chair. It doesn't make me popular. People don't want to hear this. They want to hear all the conspiracy stuff. I know you do. It's more entertaining. It's a lot more fun to talk about how the aliens are responsible than to talk about what the facts are. But that's not what I am. I'm not saying I always get it right. I can make mistakes and I can be duped, just like you. But I'm doing my best. And I will not knowingly sit here and spread misinformation or crapola just because it might generate clicks. That's what a lot of these guys are doing. And worse. They have other motivations too. Trump last night too saying, that, again, he's going to end these EV vehicle mandates. Big talk. And impose huge tariffs on China and other countries that are ramping up, gearing up to produce EVs. Well, here at home, Stellantis announcing tonight that owners of hybrid minivans should park them outdoors because there is the risk of a fire. So that means they're going to have to recall these things. These involve Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrids, most of them produced in Windsor, Ontario. 2017 through 2021 model years, being recalled for a second time now. Now, they're saying they can still be driven, but there is a risk that these things could catch fire. So they have an ongoing investigation, and they've linked this problem to an abnormality in, you guessed it, individual battery cells. And they say the risk of the fire is less or depleted or is reduced when the batteries are run down. So the less of a charge there is, the less likely it is that these things will catch fire. But of course, if one of these catches fire, it's extremely difficult to put the fire out, and the smoke that comes out of them is super toxic. So Stellantis, the parent company for Chrysler, has reviewed warranty data, and they've discovered 7 fires within this group of vans that they're recalling, and they all happened when the vehicles were turned off, and some occurred during charging. 4 customers affected by this reported symptoms of smoke inhalation. Stellantis engineers are still working on a remedy for this. It involves a software update which will detect battery abnormalities, and if the problem is found, the dealer will replace the high voltage battery, no cost to the owner. This comes just 6 months after U.S. safety regulators began investigating a 2022 recall of nearly 17,000 of those same vans. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says in documents that it would review the effectiveness of the recall and try to understand the cause of those battery fires. So the process is ongoing. Hang on, I'll return on the other side. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Oh, yeah. And just before we move on, just another mention about Elsevier, the parent company of the journal Lancet. They, just to give you an indication of what some of the problems with them are, they have been in controversies over plagiarism. They have manipulated bibliometrics. They have paid people and got caught paying people to leave positive reviews of printed works that they have published works that they have been distributing through Amazon. They paid people to leave positive reviews. Specifically, that happened back in 2009 with a textbook, Clinical Psychology. And they got caught doing this, and they were paying people to say nice things about it on Amazon in order to sell more copies. And it was the BBC actually did an expose on them. They also publish a lot of books aimed at expanding the production of fossil fuels. And since at least 2010, the company has worked with the fossil fuel industry to optimize fossil fuel extraction. Now, I don't have a problem with oil at all. But you have to understand that if what we're talking about here is a company worth over $2 billion in bed with the fossil fuel industry, that means that they are in bed with very powerful people in the Middle East. Okay? It commissions authors, journal advisory board members, and editors who are employees of big oil firms. And it also markets data services and research portals directly to the fossil fuel industry to help increase the odds of exploration success. Are you getting the picture? Okay. Suddenly, the Lancet medical journal, owned by Elsevier, which has direct ties to big oil in the Middle East, publishing material that is anti-Israel. No connection there at all. Just saying, might want to look a little closer, but I'm sure it's nothing. And why do you think they're concerned about Donald Trump? Drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill. In the United States and Canada. Yeah. I've been saying for a long time, those environmental groups, you think they're really concerned about climate change? Where does their money come from? Their funding. Oh, look over there. Why would they not want us to extract our oil? If we're not extracting oil here, we'd have to get it from over there. Again, might want to be looking a little bit closer. You think it's just about Palestine? This whole thing is a much bigger picture. A much bigger picture. Folks, I'm going to wrap things up on that note. I wish it was a more positive note, but that'll have to do tonight because we need to get ready for the big show at midnight, which would be a lot more fun and more positive. Maverick Midnight Matinee. Yeah, Maverick Midnight Matinee. We'll be back here on the Maverick News channels. Now, we will start broadcasting on YouTube, but because of the material we're going to run, we won't be able to stay on YouTube at midnight. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'll provide the links, but you will have to go over to one of our other platforms in order to continue to watch, either on Rumble, which would be the best place to go likely, or we're on BitChute live now every night too. So we're broadcasting over there. You'll have to go over to BitChute, pick it up there. Twitch, we're over there. Twitter, we're on Twitter, X as well. So we'll be running the program on those platforms, and I'm not sure where else, but those ones for sure, but definitely not on YouTube because we will get hammered with copyright stuff, even though we're running stuff that is not copyrighted, but they'll hit us anyway. So I will be back here tonight, and let me just look in the chat here. Yeah, I know Johnny. He's like, he's all in on the Lancet. Yeah, okay, whatever, man. Yeah, it's been around a long time. It's changed hands multiple times. since the 1800s, I know. And yeah, they're cited all the time as being authoritative. And for the most part, I think a lot of the stuff they publish is quite good and credible. But in this case, the methodology, totally flawed. Anyway, enough of that. Love you, John. Hope to see you back here at midnight. Maybe we'll get you to call in or something and join the conversation when we're talking tonight about Superman, but not in the conventional way. We're going to explore a lot of different aspects of Superman, the social side, the political side, the artistic side, the cultural side. We're going to reveal information about Superman tonight that you just never knew before. You're going to find out things about Superman that are going to surprise and delight you. And I will see you back here tonight, midnight, Eastern Standard Time. Well, it's not tonight. It's actually technically tomorrow, but you got the picture, right? It's still nighttime. So we'll be back here in a few hours. See you then.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.